Sunday morning cold, eyes on the score, touchdown dance ball, craving for more. Friends are calling, trades are on fire. Rookies falling, championship desire. Fantasy football fever, chasing the dream. Top of the leaderboard, we're the winning team.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Healers Program, a show that is Dynasty Fantasy Football. I'm your host, Dustin Brown, and with me is my co-host, Colton Palmer.
The intro's back. I love it. I feel good again. I finally got the dramatic entrance in, so it's back. Welcome in, everybody. Hope you're ready for a great week of some Dynasty football here. We're talking some awesome stuff today, so pretty pumped.
Had to add in a little bit extra because I had to make up for the last time.
There was extra, so I appreciate it. That one went on for about 20 seconds.
Thanks.
I need to time it.
You can find us at FF Healers and at FF Captain 22 on Twitter X, and also now on YouTube. Please search FF Healers for shorts, podcast videos, and fantasy league related videos. Today is going to be a show about rookie running backs, but before we do that, we're just going to touch a little bit on the news. So with today's news, we're going to hold off on the news that comes with like wide receiver extensions, add-ons, free agency stuff for the wide receivers, tight ends. That's in the next 2 weeks. We're going to focus more on running back, and we already did quarterbacks. So let's just start with Russell Wilson signs with the Giants. 1 year, $21 million, completely supplants Jameis Winston's opportunity and perhaps Neighbors' opportunity with the Giants as well.
Yeah, it's still not a bad situation for Neighbors. I don't hate it. I mean, both of them are capable quarterbacks. I mean, we've seen Russ, take a decline in his career, but it's not like he's terrible. So I think I'm still okay as a Neighbors owner, especially to be able to trust that Wilson can get it done. It does make me super bummed for Winston. I really wanted to see a Winston starter year, and of course, the Giants had to go and ruin that. Daboll's playing for his job, and unfortunately, like we said last time, Winston is not the guy you want getting wins. He's the guy that's fun for fantasy, but he's not getting you wins. So, it is a decent signing for the Giants, and let them go out there and play against each other. And it should be interesting year for them.
I think the thing is, you already had him on a cheap contract with Jameis Winston, and now you bring Russell Wilson in, also a pretty cheap 1 year contract, kind of like the Steelers did. You can try out both guys. Here's what I like about it in regards to the Giants. They have two players now that they could potentially trade either at the NFL draft. Maybe there's a quarterback or a team that misses out on a quarterback, or even as you go into the spring, summer, going into preseason, maybe the quarterback goes down. It just gives them that extra chip that they can trade for. Look, let's face it, the Giants are not in a win now mode. They're just trying to provide opportunity, show some potential so that way their fans are happy and continue to build, because right now they are not competing with Washington, and they are not competing with the Eagles. I think it was a good move for the Giants. I just hate it for fantasy.
Yeah, and I think this is really starting to show what NFL teams are thinking about these rookie quarterbacks coming out. All these quarterback needy teams that we're like, oh, they could get a rookie quarterback in the draft. Well, we're seeing them draft or trade for Geno Smith. We're seeing them pick up Russ and Jameis Winston. I think it's really to speak words about this rookie quarterback class coming out and how they're kind of falling on these NFL teams' draft boards.
We got to talk about the huge trade that is Jordan Mason being traded to the Vikings for a 2026 sixth-round pick. What do you think about that, Colton?
I don't hate the trade. I know you aren't a fan of Jordan Mason and him coming to your Vikings. They just had to give up a 6th-round pick, really, to get someone that we've seen in the NFL be a capable backup, and they need something to take off the edge of Aaron Jones. We saw him get run down last year. We saw him take a huge workload, and he's going to be going into his 32-year-old season, if I'm correct. I can't remember, 31 or 32-year-old season. So 31. But still, I mean, old for a running back. He still looked good and was explosive at the beginning of the year, but I mean, the time wears on his body, and he needs someone that can come in and take some heat off. And I know you wanted me to mention this last night as you and I were talking together, but I still think that J.K. Dobbins sitting out there would be an awesome ad for this Vikings offense. You know, he's just sitting out there. I don't think it would cost him that much. He did have a better season, so you have to pay a little bit from last year, but no one's even picked him up. So the fact that he's still sitting out there and they don't have a lot of draft picks, Vikings management, if you're out there listening to this one, go and pick up my boy.
I love it. I love that idea much more than Jordan Mason. You know, you're getting rid of some draft capital. Let's face it, a 6th-round pick isn't that much. Fortunately, they didn't pay a pick for this year. We only have 4 picks this year out of the entire draft, and so we're very limited. We have a lot of needs. Running back is still a need for the Vikings with only having Aaron Jones and then now Jordan Mason. J.K. Dobbins getting added would be awesome, and then maybe even limping in with either a late round or a undrafted free agent running back out of this class. It's such a loaded class for running back that we'll touch on here in just a moment. Speaking of some of these rookie running backs, we got to talk about the Cowboys. They're in need of a running back. They are apparently aiming for Damian Martinez if they can't get Ashton Genty.
Who'd they just sign as a free agent to?
Miles Sanders.
I thought there was another one that they signed as well. Either way, not important. I noticed that coming out, but as we'll talk about it, I don't think Martinez tops either mine nor yours top 10 rookie running backs. So definitely interesting. The Cowboys are going to do what the Cowboys are going to do, man. They just love to be a mediocre team.
And you know, there's always going to be that one team that's going to jump ahead of them just to spite them.
Oh, 100%, especially like there's a lot of running back needy teams out there. And so the fact that the Cowboys are already putting that out there, like, oh, if we don't get this is our guy, and then we're gonna just, if we don't get him, we've got our eyes on this one. Maybe that's just them trying to do the old Sean Payton and trick people into taking Martinez before him.
Watch the Panthers draft Genty just before the Cowboys.
Nah, man, they've got their boy already. Oh, Javonte Williams. That's who I was thinking of. That's who was signed as a free.
Oh, that's right.
Cowboys, yes.
I don't picture him as a running back because he hasn't done anything in the NFL yet. So I guess Miles Sanders was on the tip of my team.
His rookie
Shots
year was
fired.
good. His rookie year is good. Other than that, though, it's been brutal. Yeah, he had a very productive rookie year.
Lastly, before we get into our top 10, and we're going to count down from our 10 to our 1. So you'll have to stay tuned for the entire program to hear who Colton and I's number 1 rookie running back is. And I think there's going to be some surprises in this one when we go through our top 10, Colton. But firstly, the Patriots, they're on the lookout for a running back, and they had got a running back in Antonio Gibson last year, but I don't think they liked exactly what they got out of him. But they're looking at guys like Dylan Sampson and Woody Marks to kind of play that Antonio Gibson role. And of these two, if you were the Patriots, who do you have a preference on in regards to Dylan Sampson and Woody Marks?
Out of those two, I like Dylan Sampson a little bit more. We were talking about it last night. I'm not super high on Dylan Sampson, but of those two, I would have him slightly higher than Woody Marks. Sampson's productivity profile was pretty good, but the one thing about Sampson is getting into his stuff here. I don't necessarily 100% trust that Tennessee offense. They play such a widespread offense. He doesn't ever see stacked boxes, and it's just such a different offense that it's kind of hard to gauge how a running back would do in the NFL there, just because it is so spread out. So it is a little different and harder to gauge him, but I still like him slightly more than Then
All right, Colton, are you ready to go through your top 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rookie running backs.
let's do it.
All right, I'll have you kick it off with your number 10.
All right, my number 10, and this is a guy that we talked about last night that I told you needed to go back and watch his 2023 tape on. And that is because his 2024 is brutal, man. 2023, he was the best running back in college. He got the award for it. And I really liked his 2023 tape, and his 2024 tape was just ugh. But that's Ollie Gordon, and out of Oklahoma State. I went back and watched his tape, and man, he was electric in 2023. I mean, he was just running people over. He was hard to tackle. He was able to make like people miss in like a very small area. It would magically, he'd run into this pile and he'd pop out the other end and absolutely just be gone. He doesn't have like super high top end speed. I don't have his numbers right in front of me, but I don't think he has a super fast 40. You can look that up for me. But he
40 was 4.61.
4.61. Okay. Similar to around what Bucky Irving was, but he was just able to get up to that top speed super quick. He was just explosive out of the holes, and it was hard to get him wrapped up in 23. Like I said, his production fell down here in 24, but it looks like the team as in general took a big step back. And a running back can only be so good if he has a terrible offensive line. I mean, it all starts in the trenches. So, I mean, he was getting the hit behind the line a lot. I mean, there was multiple guys tackling him a lot. And so it's hard to read his 2024 film. I don't like to go back an extra year. I really don't, because I want to see what he does, this past season. But on him, just with how weird he just dropped off the face of the earth for me this year, I had to go back and watch it, and I liked it.
Well, I think what's interesting about this guy, he's 233 pounds, so he's a big boy. But back in 2023, like you were talking about, he had 39 receptions. And then this year in the Senior Bowl, he actually threw a touchdown to Jaden Higgins of Iowa State, which it just shows the versatility of this guy. He's a big guy. He's smooth. He's got huge hands, 9.5-inch hands. He had a dominator rating of a 34.9%. And out of all the running backs that are in the database on Player Profiler, that's ranked as 86th percentile. And a college target share back in college has 9.7%. He's just a really interesting guy. He did not make my top 10. He was my number 11. But I've seen comps like Ramondre Stevenson, but this guy would be a little bit more bursty than a Ramondre. He's got the ability to be a big boy, be able to catch like we touched on. But I've also heard of comps like Braylon Allen and Najee Harris. And so he's going to be a steal for one of these NFL teams, probably late day 2, probably around the 3rd round. What do you think? Or do you think he's going to jump into the 2nd round?
I don't think he'll jump into the 2nd round. I think he'll be more of a late round 3. Just some guys that are taking a shot on someone that showed so much potential in 23. I think some NFL teams might be turned off by his 24 profile. So I think them still taking a shot there on that late day 2 pick. Unfortunately, I could see him fall to possibly early day 3. But, just we'll see what the NFL does. He's just one of those guys, though, I would love to take a shot on just looking at his past profile.
So, again, that was my number 11, Ollie Gordon. So there's an extra one for you folks out there. But my number 10 is maybe you've heard of his brother, Travis Etienne. I'm talking about Trevor Etienne of Georgia, 5'9", 217 pounds, early declare, only 20 and a half years old. He had a little over 1,400 rushing yards, 14 touchdowns at Florida. He had a 20.18 miles per hour run. He's a little bit bigger than what Achane is. He's got good burst. He's a physical runner with strong build, and he's got a lot of a quickness. I like him. He's a guy that I'm not really hearing a lot about. And again, he's got a high BMI. When I'm looking for running backs, I'm looking for a BMI greater than 28. I'm looking at speed scores. His speed score is 103.8. Anything over 100 is going along those elite levels. So in the running back database, it's 76th percentile. So it's got the green light. Anything over that 75 percentile, I'm really looking for. He had greater than 30 receptions in college. So he had 32 receptions in 2024. And, I think he's a guy that you can get later in your dynasty fantasy football drafts, these rookie drafts in the late third, fourth. I've seen him go multiple times undrafted in my sleeper mocks for rookie drafts. So he's just a guy, have him on your radar. And then I think after the NFL draft, people are going to be hitting the button probably closer to the end of the third round.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people are having name fatigue on Trevor Etienne because coming into the season last year, you heard a lot about him, like, oh, keep an eye out for Trevor Etienne, brother of Travis Etienne. He was projected to possibly be a high-end second to a possibly first-round pick. And then all of a sudden at the end of this year, it seems like his name just kind of vanished off. And I'm wondering if it's just more name fatigue and people are pinning, because Travis Etienne had a rough season this year. It wasn't a great season for him. So I'm wondering if people are just kind of grouping them together and kind of forgetting his name. And there are very different play styles between the two. Trevor Etienne is kind of a more rough and tough guy than Travis Etienne is. So I do like him. And like you said, he's going late. You can probably get this guy depending on where he does go in the NFL draft. We'll see. You can probably get him in the late third. If not even, like you said, undrafted, like in the sleeper mock drafts as of right now. So late third to fourth is kind of where I project him going once he truly gets drafted. That's where I think he'll be going. But I do like his profile, and he came out of a big school like Georgia there. So the fact that he's playing these tough SEC teams and still producing pretty well is what I like to see.
This kind of reminds me of James Cook. Everyone knew who Dalvin Cook was. He was starting to fall off the face of the planet by the time that James entered the lineup with Buffalo. And then all of a sudden he's shown flashes and has shown some greatness. And if you would have drafted him late in your rookie drafts, he's been a very productive back for your teams. And then, now we have Travis Etienne. He's fallen off. He's had a bad season last year. You said about Trevor having a bad season. He had a suspension for the season opener. And so that's going to skew some of the numbers too. But I just feel like it's kind of that Dalvin Cook, James Cook. Now it's Travis Etienne and Trevor Etienne. And so, get out in front of it, get Trevor. And I think he's going to be a guy that you can get late. And then if you aren't really sold on him, then sell, for a second, maybe sell for a late first as he starts to really come forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 9.
Do I get to go first on my number 9 here?
Yes, sir.
So my number 9 here, and this is a guy that we talked about last night. I said I didn't know if he was going to crack my top 10. I went back and watched this film again just to make sure. That's Tuten out of Virginia Tech. He's got a great burst. I didn't know if I'd like him. He's not the biggest of all guys, but he's 5'9", 206 pounds, which, in today's NFL isn't too bad. He is on the shorter end, but, it just gives him a little bit to get underneath some guys. But he is just an absolute burner. That's what this guy does. And I could see it depend on what NFL team he lands on. This could work. I mean, everybody was turned off of Devon Achane until he went to the Miami Dolphins. When he landed on Miami Dolphins, everyone was like, this is a perfect scheme. And I think this is what this is going to have to happen for me in order to keep him in my top 10 post-draft. He's going to have to fall into a system where I can fall in love with, that system and how he could fit in perfectly. So just keeping that in mind, that's kind of why I have him in top 10, because of the potential he has. He had the fastest of all the running backs in the 40. He was like a 4.32, I believe, something around there. So just seeing that, it gets me a little bit excited, and being able to get him into the right system would be the most ideal thing.
Spoiler alert, Tuten is my number 7. He ran the fastest 40 time of the running backs. He ran a 4.32, the exact same as Achane, but he has 20 pounds on Achane. And so I think, it was the raw, he's a little bit raw. Is there some ball security questions I've kind of seen, but he was third in the class on missed tackles per rush. The one thing that I find that is concerning is if you look at the PFF grading, he's one of the lowest rated running backs in the class. But if you're looking for immense upside, again, kind of looking at that third round, fourth round rookie draft picks, he's fairly young. He's still 22 years old, but he's got that archetype of the height being that 5'10", 5'11". He's between that 205, 210 range. I really like that. BMI comes out as a 30.4. Yes, please. And then his dominator rating back in college was a 38.8, 90th percentile out of all running backs. Showed huge speed score, huge burst score. And he didn't quite reach the threshold of 30 receptions in a year, but he did have a 27 reception season in 2023 with a 10.2 percentile college target share. So, mark me down with Tuten as well, but I have him a little bit higher than you. I have him at my number 7.
Very nice.
I'm going to jump over to 8 then, if that's okay with you. Oh, I'm sorry, my number 9. I've got to go to my number 9 first.
Yeah.
My number 9 is Cam Scatteboo. Cam Scatteboo, ASU, 5'11", 215 pounds. Okay, I got an archetype, okay? I like that same size. He's a little bit older prospect. He is 23 years old. But if you watched him in the Peach Bowl against the Texas team, and he completely had the ASU team on his back, rushing touchdowns, reception touchdowns, this guy could not get stopped. And he had a ton of forced missed tackles. He showed excellent versatility as a runner and a receiver. He just was an all-around good, all-purpose running back. My concerns was more of his speed. He did not run the 40. He did not have a speed score. So I suspect that there was concerns on like how quick is Cam Scatteboo. And, if he would have ran like that 4.6 40 meter, could he have been knocked down just like a Bucky Irving? Possibly. But he jumped a huge vertical jump. He ended up having a great burst score, 128.7, 90th percentile for the running back position. He had 45 receptions just this year in 2024, 14.4 percentile college target share. That's 95th percentile. Cam Scatteboo, I mean, you could do a lot worse.
Should I leak where I have Cam Scatteboo, or do I save that one? I'm going to go ahead and just let it out now. I've got Cam Scatteboo actually as my number 6 running back right now. I've got him behind a group of 5 that I really like, and Cam Scatteboo is right up there with me. He was at my 5 until last night. So I've had him as high as 5 on my board, and I went back and watched a whole bunch of guys' games, and I think I had to drop him to number 6, but man, I love Cam Scatteboo. He is a bowling ball that is quick. He is explosive. He has good, like, soft hands. He doesn't run like any kind of route tree. I don't know if we have a true, route running, pass catching running back in this class, like someone like a Devon Achane that they trust to run like out of the slot.
What do you marks?
Interesting. I'll have to go back and rewatch his tape.
He had 83 receptions.
Okay. Did he run out of the slot at all, though?
I'm not sure what his route running was, but he had 83 receptions in 2021.
Well, he is a pass catcher then, but I'm talking about like someone that runs like a route tree. I'll have to go back and watch his tape again to see and see if he runs out of the slot. I don't really remember his tape right now off the top of my head, but I like Cam Scatteboo. He's able to get out on those dump offs and make things happen. He's going to make guys miss an open space, but he can also run people over, and he just bounces off of people. His contact balance is second best in this draft class for me, right behind Ashton Genty. And those two, I believe, are like neck and neck with me. I think Ashton Genty just does it a little bit more. But Cam Scatteboo, I absolutely love. And so I've got him pretty high on my draft board, and I'm taking him in a lot of mock drafts, at the early second, because I know that he's falling to mid to late second, but I just want him on my team super bad, and I keep kind of reaching on him.
What's the earliest you've taken him?
201. So if And I've been doing a lot of my league mocks, and there's some leagues where I've got the 201 and then I don't have another one till 209. So I'm really risking it because I was like, I don't want to risk it. I want this guy and I want a piece of him on my team. So
So
that's where I'm at with Cam Scatteboo.
with running back, speed score has been shown to have a very strong influence on how like the success rate is for running backs in the NFL. Cam Scatteboo, he's a blank box. We don't know what he is. So that's just my cautious flag. With Cam Scatteboo also, he's projected as a round 4 pick, so a day 3 pick. And so that's why I have him as late as I have him at my number 9. But I do love the kid. I just have concerns on the draft capital, but there's so many running backs in this class. I'm just happy I got him in my top 10.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it that draft capital is king. But with this draft class, I'm trying not to worry about it as much because I'm just keep telling myself that there's so many that they can fall. If there's a team that really needs a wide receiver and a team that needs a running back, they're going to try to take the wide receiver because there's so many less of them. And they say, well, I can just take this here and I can still get a quality running back another round or 2 later. So I'm trying to tell myself, don't worry about it as much this year, but it definitely still is king.
Well, what's fun right now is like this is before the draft. Like these are just guys that we like currently right now, and there's still a slew. There's still like another 10 plus running backs that I like outside of these top 10. But this is pre-NFL draft, and I suspect after the NFL draft, we know the landing spots, we know the draft capital. There's going to be a little bit of shifts up or down with some of these running backs.
Absolutely. On to number 8 now here. So sitting on top of my number 8 board, and that is, click the wrong button. That is RJ Harvey out of UCF. And the reason I have him at 8 is I think this kid is just absolutely a tough-nosed runner, and he just keeps turning his legs. He plays a lot bigger than what he is. He is only 5'8", 208 pounds, I believe. Not the biggest dude, but he just doesn't give up on a play. He keeps those legs turning, and he lowers his body, and he just keeps driving. And I just saw a lot of effort out of him. And I really like that. And I think NFL teams are going to like that too. He has been absolutely driving up boards. He was at one point the running back 14 on a lot of big name boards, and he's driven himself up to the bigger name boards at about 9, as high as 6 is what I'm reading here. And so there's been teams that he's had a roller coaster up and down. But I just like his effort and what he does and what he kind of brought to this UCF team. And he just doesn't give up on a play, man. He just keeps on going.
So RJ Harvey, I'm all in on this guy. I have him as my number 5 running back.
He's your Cam Scatteboo.
What? He's my Cam Scatteboo, yeah. But he actually ran the 40, and he did an awesome job at the 40. So that's probably where the difference lies. But RJ Harvey, he's very versatile. One of the red flags, and I don't know, maybe it's more of a yellow flag because they've shown that age doesn't really matter upon getting drafted at the running back position. It matters a ton at the wide receiver position. But this running back, he's going to be 20. He's 24 years old. So he's on the older side, but let's face it, running backs generally last 3-4 years. So he'll be in the league through that 27, 28 year season. And there's going to be plenty of time for him to develop as a running back. But he had one of the highest dominators in this coming draft, 43.8%. That's 96th percentile for the running back position. High BMI, 31.5. He had a 40 time of 4.440. It's 95th percentile. Speed score, 91st percentile. Burst score, 89th percentile. He did not meet the 30 reception criteria, but he did hit a 22 reception year with a 9.3% college target share. And so I just love RJ Harvey. One other thing I thought was interesting with this guy, there was 2 running backs that threw for a touchdown in the Senior Bowl. You had Ollie Gordon, who we touched on already, but we also had RJ Harvey. He threw a touchdown to Ty Felton at the Senior Bowl. And this guy, what we didn't also talk about is he averaged 6.8 yards per carry, had over 1,500 yards rushing, and he had 22 touchdowns. this guy's a beast, and he may be one of the most explosive running backs in this draft class.
You're talking about him like I talk about Cam Scatteboo'N, man. Just pure love.
We just had him flip.
Pure love. We just had him flip-flopped.
Yep. So he's my number 5.
I do like him a lot, so I'm glad that there's someone else that was kind of high on him, because I've seen roller coasters on this guy. You know, like I said, the big boards were putting him at like the 14, some were putting him at the 6, so it's just kind of up and down on what he is, and I've got him met right in the middle of those. So
in Dynasty Fantasy Football, there's a lot of people that are ageist, and I suspect that the people that have him down at like 14, 15 probably have a huge red flag on the age 24. It doesn't bother me at all. Not at the running back position. Wide receiver, again, another story. We don't need a Eskridge type of wide receiver getting drafted when he's like 40. My number 8 is DJ Giddens, Kansas State. I generally don't like my running backs being 6 foot, 6'1", but he just runs so smooth. He's 6'1", 212 pounds. He's 21 and a half years old. He's an early declare, which when I hear early declare at any of these positions, that's telling me that he's getting information that there are teams in the NFL that want to draft him at a higher position. So this is telling me that he may be a day 2 pick. And I feel like DJ Giddens could be a potential sleeper in this rookie drafts. He's got good contact balance, not as good as Genty. Not as good as was it Ollie Gordon that you said had the contact balance?
Cam Scatteboo'N.
Cam Scatteboo'N. How could I forget Cam?
How could you forget Cam, man?
How can I forget? But Giddens did average 6.6 yards per carry. He had a little over 1,300 yards and 7 touchdowns. He caught 21 passes for 258 yards and a touchdown this year. Team sources say that he could sneak into the day 2 picture, which makes him a very nice number 8 running back pick for me.
Yeah, out of the class with his athleticism score, he's number 3. So he is a very athletic guy. The one big knock I have on him is he is a very upright runner. When I was watching his tape, he does not. It's super hard as one of those taller backs. Is he just cannot get those pads low, and if they take him out, they go for his legs every time, and you just see him just drop like a tree. Absolutely. And he just doesn't get those shoulders down to really get that. But I do like DJ Giddens. I do have him lower on my board. He's sitting currently right now as my running back 12. So that's kind of where I've got him at.
And is it because of his age?
It's not because of his age. I just some
upright.
of the upright runners, man, without like the bigger size, the upright runner, I don't think he's as shifty as some of the other big upright runners that we'll talk about. One guy later on who's also an upright runner, but I have different views upon him.
But yeah, that's why I don't like the 6 foot tall running backs. They usually run up very tall, upright position, and it's hard to gain that extra yard when you're standing upright like that. All right, we're on your number 7.
Number 7. At my number 7, this one was a pretty easy choice for me, and I think this is where he ends up on yours. I'm not quite sure, but I don't remember. That's Devin Neal. And my goodness, was he a fun one to watch. I wanted to keep watching his tape because he was just a fun guy to watch. He has insane amount of burst. He is just one of the burstiest, quick-footed backs I think I've watched. Because he gets in these little holes and you see him just make these little tiny moves. And next thing you know, he's bursting out the other side. He's not a big guy he's not a big guy, like I'm saying, but he's not a guy that he's going to get hit and break the tackle by his strength. He is absolutely just making guys miss by inches in these tiny little windows, and then he's bursting out the other end. And if you get him in open space, my goodness, good luck trying to tackle this guy because his feet and his footwork is just so good and he's so shifty. I had so much fun watching him just tear up defense with these tiny little moves, man. I love Devin Neal a lot, and he's this high on my board. I'm waiting to see what the NFL says because there could be some NFL teams that just look at this guy and say, I don't think this is going to work at the next level. And that is my big fear on Devin Neal is this going to translate to the NFL? Is it going to work at the next level? I don't know. There is absolute huge potential and a very good possibility it could, but I could also see what this portion where it doesn't quite work and he's not able to use that shifty elusiveness at the next level. But I do like him a lot, and man, he was fun.
Devin Neal's your number 7. He was my number 12, and Devin Neal was number 12. I initially had Devin Neal closer to that 6-7 range like you, but I thought he was going to be faster. And when I was at the combine, he really didn't impress me. He fits that archetype that I love, that 5'11", 210 range, only 21 and a half years old. But you kept saying with your stats, tiny, tiny, tiny. And this is where the little concern also is for me outside of some of the speed. He had small hands. He had 8.5-inch hands. Anything under that 9-inch hand, maybe it increases the chance of fumbles. I'd have to look back to see what his stats were in regards to like ball security. But he was really strong in the screen game, and he was a good pass catcher. He caught 25 balls in 2023, but again, his 40 time, it was a 4.58 40. That's 52 percentile. Okay, that's average. He had an average speed score, 96.8, 53 percentile. But his burst, which means that when the ball snapped, how fast does he come off the line? He was in the 83rd percentile. So there are some interesting stats with Devin Neal, but unfortunately for him, I do have him at my number 12.
Well, I like him a lot. And I said tiny, not like as in he plays like a smaller guy because he is so elusive, but he is 5'11", 213. So he does have some size to him, except for, as Dustin's putting it, his hands. His hands are pretty little. But that doesn't scare me off as much as Dustin.
I'm sure he'll do just fine in the NFL draft. I hope he lands really well. I do really like Devin Neal for all intents and purposes. We say number 12, oh no, he's out of the top 10. But there's so many guys that are going to get drafted in this NFL draft. This running back class is insane. Number 12 is still a very, very good range for Devin Neal. He is projected, I think, in the 4th round of the NFL draft, so he would be a day 3 running back. But I think there's going to be a lot of running backs getting picked in the 3rd round and in the 4th round. And I just feel like Devin Neal is going to be around that same Scatteboo range, which, again, I like both these guys.
Apparently that range is just where my love falls, man.
You like that 4th round?
Apparently.
You'll be able to gobble them up, though, in all your...
I was just saying, maybe I'll be able to get these guys cheaper when I love them that much.
After the combine, I haven't heard much of anything about love with Devin Neal. So, thank you for at least bringing his name up here at number 7 for you and number 12 for me. I think he deserves the credit. I think he's going to be a great running back. And again, this is just going to be a person that all you viewers and all you listeners can just be like, oh, Devin Neal, I remember Colton's pretty high on him. Dustin, he's fairly high on him as well. He may just be that sleeper that you're looking for in the 4th round when you're like juggling around like, oh, I don't know who I want to get. I don't know who I want to get. Devin Neal, he has the size to be an all-purpose back. And I love those type of backs. So, it's a great dart throw. Let's see here. My number 7 is actually Bashawn Tuten. Bashal Tuten. So we talked about him already. The Virginia Tech running back. Again, PFF wasn't very high on him at all, but I think there's something to say that the NFL likes speed, and you saw like how well that Achane has been for the Dolphins and how successful he's been, and for a smaller back, may I add, he's stayed fairly healthy these last 2 years. Tuten, he's 20 pounds bigger than Achane, and he ran the exact same 40. So with that being said, he's certainly a guy that you can take your shot on.
Rootin' Tuten.
Rootin' Tuten.
Yeah, like I said, I've said my piece with Tuten. I do like him a lot. I had to go back and watch his tape because I was lower on him initially, but I like the speed. A lot of speed.
Alrighty, well, that takes you to a guy that we just talked about not too long ago. You're number 6.
My number 6 is Cam Scatteboo'N. We already talked about him. I can't guess any more. Otherwise, we might as well just name this episode the Cam Scatteboo'N episode, because I'll just keep going, man.
We may just name it the Cam Scatteboo episode, and for anyone that's been listening, they can figure out whether it's the top 10 rookie running back show or not.
We'll call it the Scatteboo'N.
Scatteboo'N. I'd have to look up how to spell booyah.
We can figure it out.
My number 6 is somebody I suspect you have a little bit higher. Caleb Johnson. I initially had Caleb Johnson at my number 5, but as we already found out earlier, I have RJ Harvey in this 5 spot. So it actually pushed back Caleb Johnson. Nothing against Caleb Johnson. I'm an Iowa Hawkeye fan after all. Again, very deep class. He's an early declare. Again, I love early declares. He's getting told that the NFL is interested in this guy. He didn't run as fast as what we would like him to run in regards to his 40 time. Let me just check here what his 40 was. So his 40 was a 4.57 40 time. That equates to a 55th percentile. And his speed score was in the 73rd percentile range. He's 6'1", so again, a little bit more of an upright runner. And if you look back at some of the Iowa film, like they had these massive holes for Caleb Johnson to run through. And so he didn't really have to like break many tackles as a whole. He just had these huge lanes, 225 pounds. So he's a big boy. And I feel like with this guy, like he averaged 6.4 yards per carry, 1,500 yards, 21 touchdowns. Like what's not to like? I initially saw some thoughts that he could get drafted in the first round. I really don't see that. Maybe in the second round. I would guess probably the second round of the NFL draft. I could see a number of teams maybe taking a shot. I've heard maybe the Cleveland Browns or even the Bears as options, as both of them have a couple picks in the second round.
So Caleb Johnson is at my number 5, like you said, just one spot higher. That's where I have him. So he's sitting there at my number 5. And this is the guy I was talking about earlier, is another upright runner. I mean, he's that taller back. He's 6'1". And we were talking last night about this, and I said, you know who I want to comp him to? And he's not as big and not quite as athletic, because no one's as athletic of a freak as Derrick Henry, but he is just a bigger back that can make people miss in these tiny windows and then just absolutely be gone. You know, he did have an awesome offensive line that made big holes for him. But when there wasn't a hole for him, you could see him kind of be a big back that was just shifty, able to shift his hips over real quick. And then as soon as something's open, he's down the field going. He doesn't have the biggest, fastest, 40 time. He's not going to be a long speed, but he can burst out of those little holes. And I liked his tape a lot. I know there are a lot of people that were talking Caleb Johnson up like he was as high as some people's, number 3 back, then to as low down to like the 8 or 9 back. But I watched his tape and I really liked it a lot. And like I said, I compared it kind of to Derrick Henry. He does get brought down in the backfield a lot. The game against Ohio State, he just got absolutely dominated by them. And he was hitting the backfield a lot and went down like a sack of potatoes. But that's how some of these taller, bigger backs work, But when he is able to kind of get up into that line and get a little shifty in there, he can just absolutely burst out. Derrick Henry, like I was saying, he's one of those backs that he can get taken down in the backfield a lot. And then as soon as he finds one lane, he's bam, gone right up the field. And I could see Caleb Johnson operating in a similar fashion.
And Caleb Johnson, too. Again, he was with Iowa. Iowa hasn't had a quarterback that could throw the ball from me to 10 feet away in the last 2 decades. And so he was the offense. He
Absolutely.
ranked as 99th percentile college dominator rating. He had only 22 receptions in 2024, but again, he's kind of in that between that 20 to 30 receptions, but Iowa didn't throw the ball that much. So you got to look a little bit deeper. His college target share, 10.4%. That's the 82nd percentile. So not only can he run, but he can also catch the ball very well.
Yeah, he has soft hands. He can go out on a swing route and he can take dump offs. He's somebody that I like, and he's my number 5. And that's no easy feat in this running back draft class.
Caleb Johnson, my number 6, your number 5. My number 5 we touched on already is RJ Harvey. Just last couple things on Harvey. I've seen comps as Chris Johnson, Matt Forte type of comp. And then I've also seen a stat that he's second only to Kevin Smith of all-time rushing yards for UCF. So again, I can't say enough on how much I really like this RJ Harvey run. UCF. I think that takes us to your number 4.
So my number 4, man, we obviously have the same top 4 here. This is where it got tough. this is where it got tough for me. And it's two teammates actually is kind of where I had to try to flip flop them.
Exactly where I'm at. Exactly.
I've got Quinshon Judkins here at the number 4 spot. I like Quinshon Judkins a lot, and he really showed it up at the combine and showed that he even is a bursty, bigger back. You know, his teammate Travion Henderson was known as the quick, bursty, speedster, elusive guy, where Judkins was known as the tough, bull-nosed runner. But he showed at the combine that he is quick. I mean, his combine numbers were very good. He ran a 4.48. He had a burst score of 131, which is 94th percentile, 91st for his speed score. So he showed that he has the speed and capabilities, but he's also a bigger back. He's 221 pounds, 6 foot tall, and he plays like that. He doesn't play, they have very different play styles. You know, he's not afraid to lower his shoulder and run people over. You know, everyone sees Travion Henderson as the pass catching back, but Quinshon Judkins actually had a higher targets per route run. You know, he caught 22 balls this year. Yeah, 22 balls. And so
This year and last year.
yeah, oh yeah, same identical numbers. So he is capable of catching the ball. The reasoning, I'll get into it when I talk about Travion, a little, the reasoning why I have Quinshon lower. But just know I like Quinshon a lot, and he has all the capabilities of being an NFL every down back.
There was some concern. Judkins is also my number 4. There were some current concerns about Judkins about not having the long speed, you know, being caught from behind when he's running for like 60 or 70 yards down the field. But he put that to bed when he ran his 40 time with that 4.48. Again, strong speed score, very indicative of a great running back. Burst score, again, greater than that 90th percentile, very indicative of a good back. College dominator was at that 60 percentile. But again, he was sharing a backfield with Henderson. The one good thing I like with Judkins over Henderson is I generally like to have a little bit bigger back. You know, he's Henderson or Judkins, I had him listed as 5'11", 221. That was from the combine. So he marked off that less than an inch from that 6 foot upright runner check mark. I just was thinking on my drive home today about that meme about the guy who's like, 6 foot. And then it's like pointing, oh yeah, 5'11". And so that's what I was thinking about when I was thinking about Judkins. I think Judkins, he's going to be a fantastic running back for any team that ends up drafting him. He's still a very young running back. There's some thoughts that he might sneak into the late first round, but I really think that he's going to be more of a second round NFL pick. But I think anybody who drafts him in our dynasty leagues would be very happy with Judkins.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a very productive back in the NFL. I think he's going to be awesome. I mean, and the long speed score is very overrated to me. The 40, that's dudes running in underwear, no pads, no helmets, anything like that. And also, how often do you see these running backs get, 60, 70-yard runs ever untouched? You know, how often do you see that? I'm more interested in his burst score, and his burst score is 94th percentile. He shows he got it. He can make these quick bursty plays where he's chunking off yardage. So I like it a lot.
And Colton, let's not forget about the national title game when he completely blew that game open. Like he had 3 touchdowns in that game. He pretty much just led Ohio State on his back. Henderson's just like, okay, you got this, man.
Absolutely. He can be an absolute dominator. And we'll start talking about Travion Henderson because I'm assuming you got him right where I got him at number 3.
Go for it, man. Let's do it.
So Travion Henderson, I've got him sitting at 3. And the reason I have him over Quinshon Judkins is this guy's potential. I think he has a higher ceiling than what Quinshon Judkins is. I think Judkins has a higher floor, but man, Travion Henderson has that absolute freak of nature burst, and he's constantly doing it. He's going in just in motion. He's like sprinting across the field, just moving at 100 miles per hour at all periods and points in time on that field. And he kind of reminds me of like that Jahmyr Gibbs-esque style player where he can absolutely just go nuts and just completely dominate teams and be super bursty, chunk off plays, and just keep on going. And that is why I like Travion Henderson. He fits today's NFL so well. where he's not a super small guy, but he just has so much burst and speed that if he lands on the right team that knows what to do with him, my goodness, his ceiling is absolutely humongous.
So with Henderson, he was originally listed as 5'10", 212 pounds. He shows up at the NFL Combine about 10 pounds lighter. He ended up weighing in at 202. Now, he did have a great 40 time speed score burst. I have a little hesitation in regards to him getting closer to that 200-pound range. However, you took the words out of my mouth. I was literally writing down Gibbs. In today's NFL, like, people are going to be chasing that, and there's going to be teams that are going to end up chasing to try and find that Gibbs-esque player for their roster, because this is a copycat league. People are finding that, hey, look what the Lions are doing. Hey, look what the Eagles are doing. They got Saquon. Oh, look what the Ravens are doing with Henry. We need to find players that fit these molds so that way we can be more competitive against our foes. So I think that's where Henderson, I kept flipping and flopping between Judkins and Henderson. Last year, Henderson decided to go back to school. He would have been our number one running back and probably most platforms number one running back in last year's class. And fortunately for him, he didn't get all muddied up in that class, because that running back class has looked to be one of the most garbage running backs maybe in NFL history. Now he joins one of the best running back classes in NFL history, and definitely the highest in regards to speed score 40 times in combine history. So good for Henderson. Again, we're just pulling strings here. Like Judkins, Henderson, number 3, number 4, doesn't really matter. He's going to be a great running back for any organization, and he's going to be a very productive running back for your dynasty teams.
Yeah, can't say enough high praise about him. I'll let you go first on your next two.
Okay. My number 2 is I think it's gonna shake the earth here a little bit. And I think one of the there's maybe 2 things that kind of pull him down here. And again, we don't know landing spots, and we know this guy's going to be drafted in the first round, or I suspect he's drafted in the first round. But my number 2 is actually Ashton Jeanty, Boise State. He doesn't quite fit my mold of running backs that I generally go for. He's not in that 5'10", 5'11 range, but he's 5'8", 217 pounds. He's just an outlier. There's just not a lot of running backs that have come in the league at 5'8", coming from a smaller school. And again, he's number 2. I am not hating on Jeanty. I just saw a picture last night, and I posted it with you, saying like, wow, look at this guy. He just looks just like an Adonis, just a beast of a man. He did not compete at the combine, and he definitely fits the mold in receptions. He had 43 receptions in 2023, 10.8% college target share, which is 84th percentile, college dominator rating, 96th percentile. Like, this guy is a beast. Please don't misinterpret what I'm trying to say here. But smaller school, didn't compete with the combine. I know, there's a chance of getting hurt, but my number 1 running back, he did decide to compete, and he is considered one of the top 2 running backs in this NFL draft on mostly every platform that I listen to, and that's Omarion Hampton, UNC, 5'11", 221 pounds, fits my mold, 90th percentile with dominator rating, 86th percentile 40 time at the 4.46, speed score 93 percentile, burst score that you look at 92nd percentile, 38 receptions, 11.2% college target share. Like, this guy is a complete beast. And I just, again, we're splitting hairs here between Hampton and Jeanty, but if I have to pick between a guy that wants to compete and a guy that wants to sit on his ass, I'm going to pick Hampton.
I think you're overlooking the combine thing. Ashton Jeanty has everything to lose and nothing to gain by competing there. He is seen as the top dog and has been for this whole year. So I think that was probably more his agent whispering in his ear, like, hey, what's the point in doing this? You're not proving anything yet.
It was a good financial move.
Yes, correct. So, but I am with you. This is just splitting hairs because I absolutely love both of them. we are getting name fatigue on Ashton Jeanty a lot. Everybody's talking about how good he is. So everyone's heard how great he is, what he's done. He's breaking records. He's broken every record. Like I said in the beginning, his contact balance is second to none. The dude's like a bowling ball in there. He like just keeps bouncing off on people left and right. Bing, 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 bing. It's like pinball. It's awesome. It's incredible.
Best contact balance in the class.
It is insane. There's slight concerns as to, he is coming from a little bit smaller school, not as good competition, but I mean, it is still college football, and he is still just absolutely obliterating people. And he still put up decent numbers in the college playoffs against these stronger schools. So it wasn't as good as the ones against the smaller schools, but it was still good numbers. So I think he still has the capabilities. And like you said, Omarion Hampton, I was like, man, I loved Omarion Hampton's tape. I loved watching him. He is a true NFL, like he's what you see as an NFL running back. Like you said, he's 5'11", 220 pounds. The dude is a monster he's got an amazing burst score. He's just a beast out there. He was the whole offense because they lost their quarterback, I believe. And so basically they relied on nothing but Omarion Hampton. And they came from, having a capable throwing quarterback in Drake May to then having another quarterback who I believe also got hurt. So they're basically on like their third string, essentially, so he was the whole offense and they still couldn't stop him. They were trying to stack this box and they still couldn't stop him. He was an absolute monster and he is going to be a beast in the NFL. So getting either one of these guys, whether he's your one, whether he's your two, I think you're getting amazing running backs out of either one. Just very different play styles. Genty's going to be more the explosive, elusive guy, where Omarion Hampton's going to be, I'm going to pound this in your face. I'm a 3-down back, and I can handle this workload. Because he did. And in college, he got like 300-plus touches every year. 300. I mean, so he was just getting beat up and also beating up on people, and his body withheld. So very different play styles, but two awesome running backs that I love, both of them, and would be happy with either one being on my squad.
So just to be clear, who is your one and who is your two?
I still have Jeanty as my one. And once again, this is another Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins duo. Different play styles where I think that Omarion Hampton has the higher floor. I think no matter what, Omarion Hampton's going to be a 3-down back, and he's going to have that absolute higher floor. But I think Jeanty has that with his contact balance and his elusiveness. He has the absolute capability of being the number one running back. Both of them have the number one running potential to be one overall. But Jeanty, I just see that ceiling being absolutely massive with the way he plays and just being able to get massive chunk yardages on teams. So I just like his ceiling more, and I like to risk it for the biscuit on that ceiling, man.
Well, and you and about everybody else too. And with Jeanty, there's a number of platforms that I listen to, and they have like Jeanty in a completely different atmosphere compared to these other three running backs that we spoke pretty highly of. And I honestly I don't think there's a whole big difference between Jeanty, Hampton, Henderson, and Judkins. Like I have all four of them in like a tier one of their own. And then, I've got other tiers for some of these other running backs, but like I'd be happy with any one of those four. Like if you could get any one of those four in the early first round of your rookie drafts, like you're going to be just fine.
Yeah, any one of those top fours. I've got Hampton and Jeanty kind of in a slightly higher tier than Henderson and Judkins, but they are very close right behind them.
I've just been, I think the only thing that has kept RJ Harvey out of that tier for me or Caleb Johnson is Caleb's was more of like the speed, and then RJ was more about the age. And so I had to have those guys outside of them. And then they weren't as productive in like the receptions category either. So, I mean, you got to draw your line somewhere. And so I don't know. I just tried to put all the information kind of in an Excel, seeing like what's green, what's yellow, what's red, and then kind of playing around with how that looks on the Excel sheet in order to help make a better rankings.
Yeah, man. Awesome running back class that we have coming out this year. So if you started rebuilding a couple of years ago and you got a lot of picks, this is the absolute year to have it, and you'll get some. I think there's going to be a lot of diamonds in the rough out there. Like we said, we got a couple of sleepers because you and I just misaligned a little bit. So some guys that are going back to 12 that we still really like. So it's going to be an awesome running back draft class, and hopefully you're able to just capitalize it on this year, and hopefully this is the final stopping point for your rebuild. Or if you're even a contender, you'll be able to get some guys late that'll be able to help you out as well. So definitely going to be a fun draft to see what the NFL does with these backs, man.
All right, Colton, we just got maybe another minute or two here before I've got to head out. Is there one other running back that you'd like to touch on from this class that we haven't touched on yet? Is there like a sleeper or a name that you want to have our listeners to kind of tune into a little bit more, or maybe be a little more familiar with before the NFL draft hits?
One guy that we should just touch on. I mean, there's still quite a few, but
There's still so many.
You took my guys, and who I was going to say for that was ETN, because I didn't know you were going to pop him into your top 10.
Okay.
But there is someone, I mean, I know a lot of people have him high and they're going to be talking about him. I'm not as high, but a lot of people do like Martinez a lot. I know we were kind of touching on it at the beginning with the Cowboys. I think he plays an okay game, and I think he can have an all right career being, a guy that is in a committee, and I think has the capabilities. He's going to be available. He is a bigger dude and held a workload there in Miami against some tough teams. So he's one of those guys that I think you can get way late in this draft class, depending on where he goes. Some people might really climb him up on the board depending on his landing spot, but I think he's going to be a capable running back that is able to get the job done. But I'm not going to see him in the light that about the guys we saw this week, where it's like, oh, this guy's going to be awesome. He's going to be a guy that kind of gets the job done, and I think just might have a low key kind of career throughout his NFL career that just he just skates by. Someone that like a Tyler Algier, someone that's a relatively good running back, just doesn't get the love because there are other better players. So someone that can just kind of skate by like that.
Which running back was that?
Martinez.
Okay. Yeah, with Martinez, again, he's an early declare. Another one of those, the 6 foot tall, 225-pound running backs, only 21. Great burst, like you said, but he's more of a physical downhill runner. He runs through contact and punishes some of the tacklers. He's more of a power back. And, I think that might be exactly what the Cowboys are looking for.
Yeah, it could be exactly what they're looking for. They might be looking for that hard-nosed runner that just kind of beats up on people. But I didn't like his tape as much as these other guys, but I think he could still have just like a sneaky okay career.
So Colton, I'm going to dig down to the deepest bottom part of this running back bucket. I'm digging so deep that no platform, I guarantee you, has said this person's name. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. There's a hyphen in there, from Arizona. 5'11", 208 pounds. He's a little bit on the older side, 23 years old. But this guy, he played in the Shrine Bowl. And I don't know if you watched the Shrine Bowl at all, but I can't say this more than what I can. Like, he was the entire game. He completely just took over the entire backfield. He was the only part of that game that was even worth watching. He was the best player. He broke off huge runs for the East. That was the Shrine Bowl East team. He jump cutted with a good vision and burst on the run. He later took a pitch and ran into the end zone. He had 6 rushes for 61 yards and a touchdown, but that wasn't all. Like, he also scored on another touchdown, 74 yards by halftime, 2 touchdowns. And then in the second half, like, he wasn't done. Like, he had an awesome spin move in there. He showed some great speed, but nobody is talking about this guy. And I guarantee you, like, when your rookie drafts are done, please put a waiver on Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt of Arizona. And, he may just be one of those guys that catches on to a team like the Minnesota Vikings that could show some speed, show some burst, and show some athleticism. Like, I was so impressed with watching him from the Shrine Bowl this past February.
There you have it. You heard it here first. I'll have to go and watch him now.
Alrighty, everybody. I hope you enjoyed our top 10. Quick, Colton, I'll have you go through your top 10, 1 through 10, and then I'll go through my 1 through 10, and then we will call it a day.
Okay. Number 10, I had Ollie Gordon. Number 9, I had Faisal Tuten. 8, RJ Harvey. 7, Devin Neal. 6, Cam Scatteboo. 5, Caleb Johnson. 4, Quinshot Judkins. 3, Travion Henderson. 2, Amarian Hampton. And 1, Ashton Genty.
My top 10 rookie running backs for 2025 goes as follows. Number 10, Trevor Etienne of Georgia. Number 9, Cam Scatteboo, ASU. Number 8, DJ Giddens, Kansas State. Number 7, Faisal Tuten, Virginia Tech. Number 6, Caleb Johnson, Iowa. Number 5, RJ Harvey, UCF. Number 4, Quinshon Judkins of Ohio State. Number 3, Travion Henderson, Ohio State. Number 2, Ashton Genty. And number 1, Omarion Hampton, UNC. If you guys enjoyed our show, please hit that like and subscribe button on all your podcasts. Please leave a comment. Hopefully you're rating us 5 stars. Don't forget to see us on YouTube. Like us there, subscribe. And with that, that is our top 10 2025 rookie running backs for this year. Next week, we'll be going into the 2025 rookie wide receivers. I hope you guys all stay tuned. I'm excited for next week as well.
Super excited. It's the best time of the year, rookie season.
Take care. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Salud.